Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I would like to talk about American culture. One thing I've noticed about American culture is that it's a very non-sensual culture compared to the sensuality that is expressed in other countries. I noticed this, I was reminded about this aspect of American culture, because today I was at a strip mall, and at the strip mall there was this yogurt place, Sweet Frog, I think that's what it's called. And outside of Sweet Frog, this yogurt place, they had a place where you could eat outside, like a cafe type of thing. But the cafe basically was just black chairs and tables, without any plants, without any life whatsoever. A complete contrast to what cafes are like in other countries. In other countries, outdoor cafes where you eat outside, there's so much life and vitality to an outdoor cafe because it's usually on a throughway, like on a narrow road, or on a sidewalk, where all these people are passing by, and so you hear all these sounds at an outdoor cafe in another country, whether it's in Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa, and they have all this plant life, all kinds of plants, live music often, people talking. So an outdoor cafe in another country is a very sensual experience. But in America, it's not so. Like an outdoor cafe, even in downtown, even in a downtown outdoor cafe in the United States, is still bland, barren, and sterile. There's just no life to it. And the sad aspect about downtown USA is that, like, Walmarts and big chain stores are swallowing up, creating urban sprawl. So the downtown life of the United States is just crumbling and is almost non-existent. So even the little life there was to outdoor cafes in the United States is just crumbling apart. So that's one thing I noticed. Like, I was reminded about that because outdoor cafes in the United States have no personality. They're completely barren and sterile. And I have been to 18 countries, and I've noticed that countries that are furthest from American-style westernization are the ones that are most sensual. And other countries that have some type of American-style westernization influence, they are the ones that are starting to lose their own sensuality. And which is sad. Like, especially like in third world countries, I'm talking about countries that are furthest away from American-style westernization. Like in Kenya, I spent 2 years in Kenya. I lived half a year in Egypt, and I lived in Turkey for a while. There is so much sensuality in Kenya when it's regarding the smells, the music you hear, people talking, and just the vitality. Like Kenya is a poor country, and Egypt is a poor country as well, financially and materially, but like they're not rich, they're not poor sensually. There's so much richness to the sensuality that is in Kenya and in Egypt. So much more rich sensuality in Kenya and Egypt than there is in the United States. So I think that's a really sad aspect about American culture. Like, I think one significant, the biggest influence to this non-sensual aspect to American culture, I think, is urban sprawl. Because urban sprawl in the United States, it just creates this huge distance. It creates this distance from people experiencing sound and people experiencing taste and sight. Because in other countries, everything's close together, so that you can. It's impossible not to experience the sensuality to sounds, sight, taste, and smells, because everything's close together. People are rubbing each other's shoulders, and everything's warm, like in other cultures, because everyone's close together. Everyone's close together, and so you experience so much sensuality. But urban sprawl in the United States, it distances people from experiencing sound and smell and sight and taste, and no one rubs shoulders with each other. Like, everyone is distant. Everyone in American culture, like, is distant from each other, so you cannot rub shoulders with other people. So that's really sad. And this corporatism about American culture where all stores are the same. Everything, all the stores are uniform. Where you can go into one chain store in America on one end, like in Los Angeles, and then you can go into the very same chain store on the completely opposite end of the country, like in New York City, and it's completely the same. The art is the same, even the customer service is the same, the people are the same, because in America, the workers do not have ownership of the business. And that significantly influences the atmosphere of that business. Because everyone, like the workers, like work basically minimum wage, they do not have any say in the management of that business. And it creates this atmosphere where everything is sterile and just a barren, sterile atmosphere. And that's part of American capitalism, contemporary capitalism. And it's ironic because contemporary capitalism in the United States, it's similar now to the Soviet Union. Because in the Soviet Union, everything was uniform and bland and sterile. And so it's awful to see that, because contemporary capitalism in the United States has become the very same way as what was the economy that existed in the Soviet Union, where everything was bland, no personality, and sterile. Even, like, it's really sad, because in the Soviet Union, people were afraid of each other. They were afraid to interact with each other out in public because of the totalitarian atmosphere. And it's the same in the United States. Everyone is afraid to interact with people out in the community. So it creates this atmosphere where everything is sterile and no personality. Really sad. And like, as regarding like aesthetics, like in the public sphere, like when you go to a business, you go to a waiting room at a doctor's office, anywhere where you're out in public, the art is all fake. Like the aesthetics is very plastic and very fake. Where you have plastic flowers on the table, plastic planters everywhere, and like prints on the wall, like prints of paintings, not actual paintings, just prints. So there's no personality to it, no aesthetics, so there's no sensuality to your sight in American culture. And even sound is just very non-sensual and bland, because the sound that there is elevator music, and elevator music is very flat. You do not have an experience where you're entering into the music, in contrast to live music, where you're entering into the live music. So, like, that's another aspect of the non-sensualness of American culture, is that elevator music, very flat. But in other cultures, like, it's not just live music, but it's also the sound of other people talking, vibrant conversations around you, the sound of people working, because you hear people working because everything's close together. It just creates this sound. It's not just live music, but active conversations, people working. It creates a natural music that you can enter into. It's a music that you participate in contrast to the flatness of music in American culture. Very sad. And even the food is bland in American culture. Like, taste is bland. And the food in American culture, it's mostly tasteless and it's bland. And it's really ironic, because Americans love to eat large portions of food. And Americans are incredibly fat. And I think that is exactly why Americans are so fat, because the food is tasteless and the food is bland. Because it's like Americans, they subconsciously know that they're missing out on taste, so they try to compensate that by just eating more and more food so they can get that taste that they feel that they're missing. So Americans eat a lot of food and they're fat, and it's all because the food is bland in American culture. Americans are afraid of sharp tastes, generally. So, yeah, another sad thing about American culture. And another thing is, it's probably why, just the non-sensualness to American culture is probably why Americans' sex lives are so screwed up. Like, Americans, out of any culture in the entire world, Americans have the poorest sex lives of any people in the entire world. Like, Americans, maybe they think their sex life is vibrant. Like, Americans want to have sex with a lot of people, but at the same time they have really bad sex. And I think, again, it's like Americans subconsciously feel they're missing out on these sensory experiences. So they try to make up for it by just having sex with a lot of people and being obsessed about sex. And at the same time, Americans have the worst sex lives out of all people in the entire world. They have really bad sex compared to people in other cultures who do receive and consume these sensory experiences all day long. So their sex lives are really good, because what you experience sensually throughout the day, the senses you experience throughout the day, that does indeed affect your sex life. And so Americans have really bad sex when they do have sex. And it's really pathetic. Pathetic about Americans. And another reason I think that the U.S. lacks sensual experiences, this is such a non-sensual experience, non-sensual culture, American culture, is because Americans are so self-absorbed. I noticed today at the mall, like everyone, like you can like look, I can stare at people and they will not stare at you back because they are so self-absorbed. And everyone's in their own little world, whether it's texting or whether it's just on a mission to go somewhere. They're so self-absorbed so that Americans do not even notice that they are missing out on the sensory experiences. So Americans eat this bland food, but they do not realize the food is bland because they're so self-absorbed. Americans are hearing flat music and not hearing anything at all, not experiencing anything audioly because they're so self-absorbed they don't realize that they're missing out on sound. And Americans, they don't have any, they don't notice their surroundings. So they don't notice that the art around them is just pathetic, that there's no art and everything is barren and sterile because Americans are so self-absorbed. Another thing really sad about American culture. And it's not just the 5 physical senses, but it's also in terms of spiritual sensory experiences, particularly related to in people daily connecting with other people out in public, because Americans don't do so. Like compared to other cultures, especially like in third world countries, like when I was in Kenya and Egypt and Turkey, everyone is interacting with each other. Strangers are interacting with strangers. People love to talk with each other. And this thing, people love to engage with the people out in the community because they are not afraid, they have no fear, and they love engaging with other people. And so in other cultures, like in Kenya and Egypt and Turkey, you get that spiritual sensory experience by connecting with other people because everyone is interacting with each other. But American culture, again, Americans are so self-absorbed, and Americans are afraid. It's really sad. Americans are afraid of others out in the community. That's a big reason why Americans don't interact with other people. That's why the media has a lot to do with it, because the media feeds this fear into the Americans, this fear of the other, fear of other people. So, like when I'm out in the community, I try to interact with people, but I'm often obnoxious, and I like to tease people. I love teasing people on public, but like people, this is what I noticed about Americans. Like today, I was in a kind way teasing people, but also in a sarcastic way. They are afraid of it. They are afraid of me, and it's not just me, because when I act like that in other cultures, people laugh at me and they interact with me. So it's American. This is what I notice about Americans on a daily basis. I notice that about American culture. Americans are afraid of interacting with other people. Americans are so afraid, like they're going to be shot to death or something like that. Really sad. So, like, I personally feel like I was born in the wrong country. Like, I can relate to people who feel like they're born in the wrong body, like a female person born with a female body, but they feel like they're a male, or a person who's born with a male body, all their male parts, but they feel like they're really a female. So they want to have transsexual operation. So they have transsexuals, basically. Like, I feel like one of those people. I feel like I was born in the wrong country, because I am a very sensual person. I love engaging with all my senses. And so I'm born in the wrong country because America is such a non-sensual country. So, like, I can't wait to leave this country because this is not me. America being a non-sensual country, this is not me. So, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.